Hey guys, welcome to our channel, Foghorn 5. Welcome back if you're a return viewer. Welcome if you're a new viewer. Good to see you guys. Are you tired of building clones that are just run-of-the-mill? Today we're doing a little bit of an impromptu video. Justin won't be joining us. We're going to be diving into the subject of obscure rifles in US service during the global war on terror. Today we got a little treat for you. We're going to just kind of cover things that you probably haven't seen. Maybe you've seen these particular rifles before, but you weren't sure what was going on them. Get you out of your little slump if you're tired of cloning like standard M4A1s or Mark 18s or CQBR Block 2s like everybody else does. You know, that could get a little boring after a while. This is going to be a part of a series, so I'm only going to do like a few rifles. We'll just kind of go over them and the parts used on them, and it could be just like a one-off, or it could be like a unit purchase or something like that. Before we go into that, I want to thank everybody for all the support on the channel, the likes, comments, subscribing. Keep it up. It really means a lot to us. We really appreciate it. We also want to give a huge shout out to the vets. A lot of the content that we do here revolves around the global war on terror, just nerdy stuff that we like nerding out on. We really appreciate you guys. It really means a lot. So yeah, we'll go ahead and get into the video. The first rifle we'll get into is the AFSOC Block 1.5 M4A1. AFSOC has been known to purchase non-standardized parts, probably due to budgeting and certain unit preferences and whatnot. So you're going to see stuff that you wouldn't normally see on like a standard M4A1 from the Army or whatnot, just for an example. Moving along, we'll go ahead and break down each photo that I've found of these particular rifles. I'll put them up on the screen and we'll go ahead and talk about what is on that particular rifle. They typically have Daniel Defense Omega 7.0 rails. Supposedly they've been issued to one unit in particular, but they'll be standardized throughout the whole unit. They're all going to have those DD Omegas. So this first rifle, we have a Colt LE stock, some sort of Magpul or Ergo style grip. I'm not entirely sure because I can't see what's going on there, but it looks like it has one of those beaver tails, like a Magpul or an Ergo grip. Now going on to the upper, we have a 14.5-inch barrel, a standard Colt front sight post, the Daniel Defense Omega 7.0 handguard on there, and then we have a Knight's Armament broom handle grip. We have a PEC 15 LA5, an older generation Surefire M600 with the standard mount, a clicky tail cap, and we also have a Surefire IR flashlight head cover. As for the optic, we have an EOTech 552 on what appears to be some sort of riser. Behind the riser, it looks like we have a flip-up magnifier mount, probably the Aimpoint flip-up magnifier mount, the 3-time. As for the rear iron, I'm not sure what that is either, but that pretty much wraps that first photo. Moving on to the second rifle, starting with the lower. For the stock, we have what appears to be a Voltor AIB MST standard stock in FDE. I can't see anything else on the lower, so we'll move on to the upper. For the muzzle device, we have a Surefire FH556-212A, which is a legacy item. If you're looking for one, they will be a little bit tricky to find. And we also have a 14.5-inch barrel, just like any other M4A1. From here on out, I'm not going to mention that because it's pretty obvious that they're all 14.5s. We also have that Omega 7.0 rail, a PEC 15 LA5. As for the optic, we have a Aimpoint T1, and just like that first photo, we have another Aimpoint 3-times magnifier mount without the 3-times magnifier on it. So we're going to go ahead and assume, because based on the other photos, they all have the 3-times magnifier. For the rear iron, we have what appears to be a Maytech BUIS rear, which I believe stands for Backup Integrated Sight. That pretty much wraps it on that second photo. We'll go ahead and move on to the third photo. We'll go ahead and start with the rifle in the middle because the rifle on the right is not one of these AFSOC Block 1.5s. Starting with the stock, we have an LMT SOP Mod Gen 1. The way you could identify a Gen 1 versus a Gen 2 is the lack of a QD point. And then we have a mystery rear sling plate on this lower. I'm not really sure what that one is, but if somebody could clarify in the comments, that would be really cool. As for the pistol grip, we have a Tango Down battle grip, which this is the one without the beaver tail. Moving on to the upper, we have that Surefire FH556-212A. We have the Omega 7.0, a PEC 15. I'm not really sure if that's an LA5 due to the angle of the photo. Throughout all these photos, you pretty much see LA5s all the way throughout. As for the optic, we have an EOTech 552. For our rear iron, another mystery item that I've yet to identify. Photo number 4, we'll start with the lower. We have a LMT SOP Mod Gen 1. As for the pistol grip, I can't really see it. And then moving on to the upper, we have a Magpul AFG Gen 1. a PEC 15 or an LA5. I can't see the other side, so I can't see the adjusters, so I'm not entirely sure on that one. We have the Omega 7 again. As for the optic, we have a Trijicon TA01 NSN. For the rear iron, it appears to be a ARMS number 40 low profile rear sight. Moving on to photo number 5, we have another Voltor stock. This one appears to be the iMod with the club foot option in FDE. As for the grip, I can't see the grip. Moving on to the upper, we have a PEC 15 LA5. For the optic, we have an Aimpoint T1. Behind that, we have an Aimpoint 3x magnifier, which that'll confirm our speculation on the other photos with the Aimpoint mounts without the magnifier were indeed these 3x magnifiers. For the rear iron, this photo is a little bit grainy, but I'm going to go ahead and say that this is another Maytech BUIS rear. Moving on to photo number 6, we have an LMT SOP-Mod Gen 1, and we have a Colt A2 pistol grip. As for the upper, we have a Omega 7, a PEC 15 LA5, an EOTech 552, and the ARMS number 40 rear sight. Photo number 7, we have that Voltor iMod with the club foot in FDE. We got a Tango Down battle grip without the beaver. Moving on to the upper, I'm gonna assume that this is an FH 556-212A. We have a PEC 15 LA5 and a Tango Down full-size grip, an Aimpoint T1, and what appears to be an Aimpoint 3x magnifier mount without the magnifier on it. I'm not entirely sure though, because it is pretty grainy when I zoom in. For the rear sight, it looks like we might have the Maytech BUIS again. The gun on the right, we have a Voltor iMod, but I'm not entirely sure if it's a clubfoot or the standard design. Being that the other grip on the gun on the left, it appears to be an FDE battle grip, but I'm not entirely sure due to the angle of that photo. As for the upper on the rifle on the right, we have a PEC 15 LA5. For the optic, I can't really see and make out what the hell it is. But in that case, I won't continue to keep looking at this one. We'll move on to the next. We have a Voltor iMod. Not sure whether it's the clubfoot or the standard, but it's one of the two. Then we have a PEC 15 LA5. As for the muzzle device, I'm zooming in and I'm looking at it, and it looks like an FH 556-212A again. For the optic, we have a T1. Everything behind that optic on that gun I can't really see, so I'm not gonna make assumptions there. We have a LMT SOP-Mod Gen 1. For the laser, we have a PEC 15 LA5. For our foregrip, we have a Magpul AFG Gen 1. For the optic, we have a AFSOC TA01 NSN. For the rear iron, we have another ARMS number 40 rear sight. As for the rifle on the left, it looks like we have an LMT SOP-Mod Gen 1. Moving on to the upper on that rifle, it looks like the Surefire 556-212 is on there. As for the laser, it looks like a PEC 15 LA5, but I can't really tell. Moving on to the optic, it looks like an EOTech 552. We have an LMT SOP-Mod Gen 1, a Colt A2 pistol grip. The upper, we have a Surefire FH 556-21A. We actually have them on both of these rifles in this photo. A Magpul AFG Gen 1, a PEC 15 LA5. For the optic, we have another EOTech 552. These seem to be pretty popular on this rifle. For the rear iron, it looks like the ARMS number 40 rear sight. Yeah, there seems to be a theme in the setups of these rifles. We have an LMT SOP-Mod Gen 1 once again. A lot of them seem to have red paracord hooked into the hole where a QD would actually be. As for the pistol grip, we have a Colt A2. Moving on to the upper on this rifle, this is the first rifle that I've seen with the suppressor out of the photos that I grabbed. I'm sure there's more photos floating around the internet of these AFSOC 1.5s. The suppressor that's in this photo appears to be the Surefire FA 556-212, which is the suppressor that's compatible with the FH 556-212A. Moving on to the flashlight, it looks like we have a Surefire Scout M300 with a clicky cap and probably the standard head and a standard thumb screw mount, but I can't really see it very well. Moving on to the laser, we have a PEC 15 LA5. For the optic, we have a EOTech 552, and for the rear iron, we have what appears to be another ARMS number 40 rear sight. But yeah, that pretty much wraps it up on the photos that I found. I'm not going to do too much digging. The idea of these videos are just to kind of get your gears turning on obscure rifles that you can clone. If you have like certain parts laying around in your parts bin, maybe you could build one of these rifles. That pretty much wraps it up for our first episode of obscure US service rifles. This is going to be a series, so we'll go ahead and kind of like grab a couple photos and identify what's on each rifle, the history behind it. This was just kind of a quick impromptu video. If you guys want us to go more in depth on this particular rifle, we could definitely do that. And I'd surely like to clone this just for fun. In the meantime, we're working on getting some more videos regarding clones going. The first one that we want to do is regarding the Mark 18 Mod O and CQBR Block 1. So definitely keep an eye out for that. We really appreciate you guys' support, and I hope that this helped spark some inspiration for another clone. If you guys are looking into cloning another gun, go ahead and like, subscribe, comment. Thanks for your guys' support. Thanks for the viewership. We really appreciate it. All right, see you on the next one.